So these reports are coming out that Kamala Harris is getting all of these big endorsements. And, you know, there are some big endorsements, but we do have to remember that they're all from the state of California at this point. And Kamala Harris is a senator from California, so this really makes sense. The latest report is that Gavin Newsom came out, the governor of California. He came out and supported her, and that's not surprising at all. These two have been working together since like 2004 when Gavin Newsom was mayor of San Francisco, and Kamala Harris at that time was the DA for San Francisco. Then when Gavin Newsom became the lieutenant governor of California under Jerry Brown, that's when Kamala Harris became the attorney general for the state. So they've been working together for a really, really long time. It makes sense that he would come out and endorse her. Also, she endorsed him for governor of California. She came out and she campaigned for him and endorsed him. So, yeah, okay, that's no big surprise. The big surprise that people have been kind of lighting up Twitter about is Barbara Lee. And yes, I can see where this is shocking to a lot of people because Barbara Lee is a true progressive who's been really has got a stellar voting record. She's been oftentimes buried by the establishment because of her viewpoints. And you know, so it's disappointing that Barbara Lee would support Kamala Harris over somebody like Tulsi Gabbard or Bernie Sanders. But it's also not surprising, and here's why. Barbara Lee is the representative for Oakland, California. Kamala Harris comes from Oakland, California. Kamala Harris announced her candidacy in Oakland, California. That's where she did her speech. Kamala Harris is the senator for California, where Barbara Lee is a rep for California. So it's not surprising. Both women are black women. Both women love Shirley Chisholm. And which, you know, Shirley Chisholm was the rep back in the 70s, who was actually the first woman, you know, first African-American woman. Was she the first woman in general to run for president? I'm not sure about that, but definitely the first African-American woman to run for president. And you know, this is smart on Harris's part. This is really smart to get Barbara Lee in. And also the way she did it, part of it was she offered Barbara Lee the co-chair of her campaign. And she's also going to be co-chairing with actually a Latino, really smart on Harris's part. I do have to give her some props. A Latino civil rights activist. Actually, she's like a farm activist, a Latino woman who is a farm activist. And she's going to be co-chairing alongside Barbara Lee. But some of the things here, you know, in looking at Harris, here's the thing. A lot of people are really upset and disappointed, like I am, that Barbara Lee would endorse Harris, but not surprised because of everything that I just mentioned. But it's not going to win Harris the progressive vote. I mean, we're just not going to go for it. So Barbara Lee can stand by her girl all she wants. At the end of the day, it's not going to convince people that Harris is a progressive. And Harris has got a real uphill battle, I think, because she is such a politician. I mean, this has been the problem. The one thing I didn't like was that Barbara Lee actually said, and then I'll explain how, I mean, all of the inconsistencies with Harris, but she came to say, this is from Barbara Lee when she decided to endorse Harris. She says, when I was a young single mother attending Mills College, I invited Shirley Chisholm to come speak on campus and was inspired to later work on her presidential campaign, said Lee, who would also serve as Harris's campaign California co-chair. I threw all my energy and support behind a visionary black woman committed to making America work for all its people. Shirley set us on a path toward progress, and now Senator Kamala Harris picks up the baton. There's a huge difference, though, between Harris and Chisholm. I love Shirley Chisholm. She was also a true progressive. And if you actually hear, I actually want to play this for you. This is Shirley Chisholm's announcement that she was running for president. Listen to this, about 2 minutes long.
I stand before you today as a candidate for the Democratic nomination for the presidency of the United States. I am not the candidate of Black America, although I am black and proud. I am not the candidate of the women's movement of this country, although I am a woman, and I'm equally proud of that. I am not the candidate of any political bosses or fat cats or special interests. I stand here now without endorsements from many big-name politicians or celebrities or any kind of prop. I do not intend to offer to you the tired and glib cliches which have for too long been an accepted part of our political life. I am the candidate of the people, and my presence before you now symbolizes a new era in American political history. I stand before you today to repudiate the ridiculous notion that the American people will not vote for a qualified candidate simply because he is not white or because she is not a male. I do not believe that in 1972 the great majority of Americans harbor such narrow and petty prejudices. I'm convinced that the American people are in a mood to discard the politics and the political personalities of the past. I believe they will show in 1972 and thereafter that they intend to make independent judgments on the merits of a particular candidate based on that candidate's intelligence, character, physical ability, competence, integrity, and honesty. It is, I feel, the duty of responsible leaders in this country to encourage and to maximize, not to dismiss or minimize such judgments. All of you who share this vision, from New York to California, from Wisconsin to Florida, are brothers and sisters on the road to national unity and a new kind of America.
I love Shirley Chisholm. If she were running today, she is, really love her. Her campaign slogan was unbought and unbossed. And she was absolutely those things. But that is very different than Kamala Harris. That is not Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris does not pick up this baton and run the way that Shirley Chisholm did. Shirley Chisholm was a true leader. And that is something that Kamala Harris has proven she's absolutely not. Now, I'm not going to dock Kamala. I actually want to say that the more research I've done on her, I like her. I like Kamala. And I don't want her to be the president. So let me just say that. But I do like her. And the reason I like her is because she does change. She does change. She is willing to flip her positions. That's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't really want a flip-flopper, right? Because then you can't trust them. But with Kamala, I think that it's as she grows and as she's becoming more enlightened or as she sees what the people want, I think then she changes her position to those things. Now, I'm not saying that she's got like a big firm conviction to it, but I think she's doing the job of a representative. She's hearing the people and she says, oh, okay, so I guess you guys want that. So I guess that's what I'll go and be for now. For example, Medicare for all, she signed on to that only after she got a lot of pressure from people in 2017, claiming that she wasn't progressive enough. When it comes to the military budget, she voted for it for 2018. For 2019, she voted against the inflated military budget. So she switched on that. When it comes to marijuana, now she's saying that she's for legalization of marijuana, but historically she'd been against it in 2010 and in 2014. She had actually stated that she was not for legalizing recreational marijuana. And then she goes on the Breakfast Club and she pretty much lies about it. I mean, she goes on there and she says, not to mention she lied about listening to Snoop Dogg and Tupac back when she was in college because they weren't out yet. And she was clearly just trying to fit in. But she then lied about being for marijuana. When they asked her, she said, well, I'm Jamaican, so there's that, like kind of alluding to this is part of my lifestyle. This is part of my family's lifestyle. Meanwhile, she'd been against the legalization of recreational marijuana for years during her time as an attorney general. So Kamala has shown that she's not consistent. She hasn't been in the past all of these great progressive things. I mean, also taking PAC money, she announced in, I believe it was April of last year, so almost about a year ago, she announced that she would not be taking corporate PAC money because she sees the trends and she goes with the trends. That's not a leader. That's a good rep, though. I mean, we've got to kind of back off on this when people do change their minds, harping on them. We want them to change their minds. That's why we're harping, right? We want them to change. But when they change, it's one thing to change one position, that maybe you had a bad position, you've come and seen the light, like Tulsi Gabbard and her homosexual extremist past, right? When she would call them homosexual extremists, and she was, really following in the footsteps of her father and was indoctrinated by her family. And then she grew up and saw the light and said, wait a minute, I'm not for that. That was my family. I was young. That's not me. That's totally different. Kamala Harris flipped on everything. Practically every position she's ever had, she's like, okay, I change, because she goes with the flow of society. That's not bad. It's not bad to go with the flow of society. It's a bad leader. We don't want a leader who's going to do that. A leader should have a very different skill set, and that is they have a vision for America, and they are pushing for that vision. They have a clear vision, and they are the person to lead us there. That is not Kamala Harris. So Shirley Chisholm, I think, had a vision, for sure. I do think she was a visionary woman. I think Bernie Sanders, for example, is visionary. Even Donald Trump, in his own messed up way, has got this ridiculous vision of himself inside of America, right? His vision of America is Trumpland, the great Trumpland. But at least it's a vision. That's what people want. People want to vote for somebody who has a vision. And Kamala Harris, I think, is a good representative because she goes with the times, but that's not a good leader. So Barbara Lee endorsed her, saying that she's picking up the baton for Shirley Chisholm. Don't agree with either of those things that Barbara Lee has said and done. But at the end of the day, it's not going to turn Kamala Harris magically into a progressive.